Welcome back. Carrie Richter's here, and she's with the Central Ozark Farmers and Artisans Market. You know, if you put an R in there somewhere, it'd be co-farm.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know. I just noticed that. It's
Well,
co-fam.
Very insightful. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
They'll take that to heart. And,
Yeah, and just throw it out. And there we go. Carrie, how's it going?
Farmers Market this year has been super great. So
Okay.
Yay.
we're very appreciative to our community for supporting Farmers Market in such a big way this year. So thank you, Harrison.
Okay.
What? Oh, I want to know,
Yeah.
like, what are some of the things people who have not been, or maybe went, and what all can they see?
Sure. So let's first of all start with where we're located. We're on the
Yes.
downtown square in Harrison. Very grateful for Judge Hathaway for continuing to support the farmers market through allowing us to set up on the square. We are there on Wednesdays and Saturdays, 7 a.m. until noon, or until sold out. Some people sell out pretty quickly. So what's available at farmers market is week to week, it varies a little bit, but you're typically going to find seasonal vegetables and fruits. Right now we have a lot of we're transitioning seasons. We're going from summer, late summer vegetables going into fall. So right now you're going to find lots of tomatoes, peppers, squash, zucchini. Those are all coming back in. You're also going to find potatoes that have been cold setting, so they're going to be pretty tasty. You'll start to see a little bit of sweet potatoes, a lot of fall squash. I noticed down there this morning there was sweet dumpling and butternut squash, which are some great storage items. You'll see onions and garlic. And then we're going to start transitioning to some more fall vegetables, so you'll start seeing things like turnip greens, turnips, rutabaga. You'll start seeing broccoli again down at market, some cauliflower. So you'll start seeing some late season vegetables coming in as well. And then the last 2 weeks I've noticed Mr. DeVore has had apples. So
Sweet.
yay! That means that we're going to start seeing more apples showing up at market. You'll start seeing your Golden Delicious and your red apples, and then that's going to transition into the Arkansas black apples. So for those that are not familiar with Arkansas black apples, I wouldn't call them one of those apples that you just pick and eat. It's best if you let it set. The sugars will develop a little bit more.
So it's a little tarty.
They're the perfect pie apple.
Yeah, okay,
So
okay.
I would compare it to kind of like a Granny Smith with a little bit more of a developed flavor if you let them sit. We typically will buy a couple bushels and then we put them in our cold storage, and then I find them best to start using them around Christmas time. So we do a lot of strudels and bakes around Christmas time because the flavor's a lot more developed.
I got to ask, cold storage, what does that mean?
So if you have a nice, cool basement that's clean, that's where you can store them. We usually will lay them out in crates so they're not just completely stacked on one another. If you see one that has a bad spot, go ahead and just take it out and use it. You can make them into applesauce, pies, dehydrate them for apple chips. We use them in cereals and things like that for our kiddos.
Okay.
But this is a really good time too if you haven't had time to maybe get bulk vegetables and freeze them or process them. I know canning supplies are a little bit limited for most people right now. Most of the vegetables you can prepare and place in the freezer and you can use them. I just recommend doing them in smaller batches in the freezer so you just can take out what you need as you go rather than putting everything in a big bulk. And use freezer containers or wraps so that you're not wasting anything. Baked goods. That's another big item down at Farmers Market. A lot of good bakers are at our market. We have a few new ones this year, but Shirley is the one that's been down there the longest. We have Brenda that's down there now, Brenda McAllister, Kelly Lofton, and they also provide a lot of baked goods. Delicious. I don't know if you've seen some of their big, huge muffins that they've had, and sweetbreads and cinnamon rolls. And then you can also get some savory items. Brenda had a tomato bread down there today, which she recommended you slice it and put a little butter and use it for like grilled cheese sandwiches. So some items that way. Eggs are starting to show back up at market again. This year's kind of been a high demand for most of our egg suppliers, so there hasn't been very many at market, but they're starting to show back up again, so that's always a good thing. Jams and jellies, which I love our market members, they try to utilize what's in season. So if you see peach jam on Brenda's table, you can pretty
Yeah.
much guarantee that those peaches came from the farmer's market.
Uh-huh.
So it's a really great partnership that we have with our makers and producers.
Right.
Let's see here. We have a lot of.
Do people do pickles and that kind of thing? or
So
not
I would
much, or?
love to see pickles
Yeah.
at farmers market, but you have to have special permits and
Oh, really?
you have to meet
Really?
certain
Oh, yeah,
requirements.
see if I can
So
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, we fall under what's called the cottage food law, and all of our market members go through training in order to
Yeah.
make sure that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we can't offer things that like have dairy in them, so no creamed pies. You're not going to see those down there. You're not going to see pickles and salsas and canned tomatoes because they just don't fit under the cottage food laws.
Oh, okay.
They have to meet a certain time and temp for processing.
Oh, boy.
And they
Yeah.
require
Okay.
commercial kitchens. So,
Wow.
yep. So you're not going to see a lot of those items down there. If you do see any of those items, it's because they have special permits
Okay.
and they've processed them in a
Yeah,
commercial
the old
kitchen.
days when my grandmother used to make pickles, I guess she couldn't
couldn't-
even offer them now because of she did them in her kitchen
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And
under those conditions.
I really encourage consumers, the people who come to our market, if you're going to another market and you're purchasing salsas and pickles in the area, you should ask those questions. Do you have a
Okay.
permit for this, and was it processed in a commercial kitchen? Because if you're not asking those questions and you're just purchasing because you're like, oh gosh, I
Yeah,
remember my
there
grandma
it
had
is, yeah.
those,
Mhm.
you're actually putting yourself in a risk category of perhaps food poisoning of some sort.
Sure.
And I don't say that lightly because I make a lot of pickles and salsas and I wish I could sell them.
Yeah.
But we don't because we don't have the correct permits and we don't process in a commercial kitchen. So it's for the consumer safety
yeah.
that those guidelines
Okay.
are in place. So always ask those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Same way with eggs. If you're purchasing eggs from somebody, ask them, have they been washed? Have they already been refrigerated? Because you want to make sure that, if they're being refrigerated before they get to you, which they are supposed to be, that you put them in a refrigerator pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So unless you're buying directly from a farm, then you need to be asking those questions. Some other things that are available is we have a lot of artisan-made items, and I'll talk about one thing we have coming up, which is exciting. But you're going to find a lot of Christmas items pretty soon, and the fall
Okay.
items. So you can get ready to get all those fall pumpkins. But neat little things that you can get for Christmas, especially if your parents or grandparents, they have like kids' aprons, toys, woodworking toys. There's also, I know this year it's been a big deal, face mask.
Right.
So
Yeah, right.
we have a lot of face masks that are available. One of our vendors, that's really all that she makes are face masks and scrunchies, and that's what she specializes in. And then we also have some that have the built-in nose
Yes.
bendables, I don't know what you call them, to help shape to your face, and they're like 4-ply. So there's a little bit of difference in the different type of mask that you can find at farmers market. But kids are going back to school. Teachers need face masks. I recommend between each classroom, not just all-day wear, but
Yeah,
to put them in
sure.
between different classrooms. So they're all hand washable or machine washable, so that kind of makes it pretty handy. We also have some new woodworking items that I noticed today came to market, like burnt wood, turntables, and things
Okay.
like that.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's pretty cool. We have something coming up that I'm excited about. We haven't even put it out onto our information page yet, and we don't have our vendors all lined up just yet. But we're going to be doing a Christmas market. So it's going to be in conjunction with the downtown Christmas on the Square that they do with all the local downtown. So we typically wouldn't go into November, but it'll be like that first or second weekend in November. I've got to confirm the date. But we're going to open that up to not just farmers market members, but we're going to open that up to greenware makers. So basically anybody that makes things from handmade, which is a requirement for our market. So they have to kind of still fit into our market guidelines. So no Avon or Tupperware type vendors, but we will have anybody who hand makes items, and they can pay a registration fee, and they can sign up, and they'll be set up, along the sides of the square. So,
So it will
The
be an
Harvest
outside.
Homecoming didn't happen this year, so this may be an opportunity to truly get homemade type gifts that, or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, we have quite a few vendors that they rely on our local venues, I know there's
Sure, yeah.
a Christmas marketplace.
Right.
And a lot of those venues have been closed this year because of, the C word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And so we want to kind of just extend that and allow people to still, because they plan for it all year long, and they have boxes and Rubbermaid totes and all kinds of things full of gifts that they typically would be able to sell. And a lot of people rely on that during the holidays for additional income. So though it's going to be just a one-day event, we still want to make that available for the public to partake in visiting, and it will be outdoors, and we know that's risky in November, but I think with canopies and maybe even
Sure.
umbrellas and hand warmers,
Hot chocolate.
hot chocolate. We will have hot chocolate and hot apple cider available. It'll all be free. It'll be touch-free, so, it'll
Okay.
just, we'll
Right.
have
All right.
somebody designated to hand that out, and we'll have some cookies to go along with it, so.
So keep your eyes peeled on like the website or the Facebook page for
yep.
more information.
Yep, we're going to post it through our social media. So we have a website, we have Instagram and Facebook accounts set up. All the registrations will be taken through our website only. We'll put links on Instagram and Facebook. I don't want to touch your cash, and I don't want to track you down to pick up a check from you. You're going to have to use a debit or a credit card to pay to be a participant in the event. There's going to be some certain guidelines that are going to be in place. Everybody's going to be required to have hand sanitizer on your tables and have a touchless pay system. For us
Okay.
this year, touchless pay simply means that you can either use a card as a customer to pay, or and they have to be able to not touch it. Or we have what's called an in and out money system. So there's an in basket where you can place your money, and then there's an out basket where you can pick up your change.
Okay.
And the vendors are not supposed to be necessarily touching that money while in between customers without sanitizing their hands.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you some distance. And so there's going to be some guidelines that we have to keep in place,
Yeah.
but that'll kind of give some options for our community.
All right.
Sweet.
All right. Well, give us some dates of the farmers market again.
So it's Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we're going to continue that all the way through the end of October unless we have some phenomenal growing season
Okay.
and the weather is still beautiful. We may continue for another week or two. We've done that in the past,
Okay.
depending on what's available. And
Okay.
so
And then
we
check
don't-
out the Facebook page.
Yep, they can find us at Farmers and Artisans Market of Harrison. It used to be CoFam market page, but we had some issues.
Okay. All right.
So you can find us under Central Ozarks
Okay.
Farmers and Artisans Market of Harrison, or just Farmers and Artisans Market of Harrison, or you can type in CoFam and it will probably pull us up as well.
Okay.
So same with Instagram.
Ugh,
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
All right.
It is. Yeah.
Carrie, thanks so much for coming by,
Thank you.
and we may have
Thanks.
you
Lots
back.
of information. Good information.
We'll have you back before the end of the year and see what's going
Yeah.
on.
Sure. Thank you for
Especially
having us.
closer to
Yeah.
this event you're talking about. That'd be good for you to come back and talk.
Thanks.
Thank you. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking with Fred Wool about various things. He's a horse guy, and we'll be talking about burros and other things. And maybe, he is a JP at the Boone County Quorum Court. We might talk about some of the things there. We'll grill him, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it'll scare him to death, and he'll run out of the building and never
He
come
might.
back. But he'll be back in just a couple minutes. We'll be talking with Fred Wool. Stay with us.